To the lectern, Matt Phillips.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and distinguished guests, good evening. I'm only an average man, but by George, I work harder at it than the average man. These words were spoken by one of America's great presidents, Theodore Roosevelt. And these words also help to describe who I am. For those of you who don't know, or didn't hear during the introduction, my name is Matt Phillips. I grew up in a very small town in West Virginia, a small town of about 500 people. You know, the type of town where everybody knows everybody, and you can't ever get away from anything you ever do. So keep that in mind. If you move to a small town, don't do anything you don't want anybody to know about, because it'd be hard to get away from that. And until about 3 years ago, I lived in West Virginia all of my life. I'm 30 years old, and at the age of 27, I moved away. So up until that point, West Virginia had been all that I had ever known. Growing up in a small town also helped afford me several different opportunities to become who I am standing before you right now this evening. As I said, growing up in a small town, it gave me a lot of opportunities to have a lot of good friends, share a lot of good experiences, friends that I still have to this day. But it also afforded me the opportunity to get involved civically and do some other things. And at the age of 18, I decided that I would become part of my town's local volunteer fire department. It had been part of my family all of my life. My father himself was an assistant chief for over 20 years within the department. So it was a lifelong dream of mine to join him in that vein of work. This began what would be a 13-year service and a continued dedication to not only public safety, but safety in general. Having had this experience, it helped me to grow as a person. It helped me to gain some leadership skills, and to understand that I would be responsible for myself as I moved in the next segment of my life. As I proceeded, I then went off to college. I started college in 1997, and I started as a chemistry major, which was very difficult for me because I didn't have the math prowess that most people that I had gone to school with had, but I had a determination to succeed. And when I graduated in 2002, I can remember distinctly when I started, my professors looking at me and saying, "You want to do what? You want to do what now? You have no experience?" But it drove me to work harder. And as I worked harder, once I graduated with my chemistry degree, I knew I had accomplished something in my life. During this time, I met and began dating my wife, Kelly. And soon after we both graduated, we married in 2002. So we married 7 years. It'll be 8 years in August. Once we were married, this then brought me to the next point in my life. At this point, my wife was continuing her education. So we moved to Morgantown, West Virginia, home of the Mountaineers. And my wife continued her education as a PhD. And I continued my education and received my master's degree from West Virginia University in the field of safety management. During that time, I had the very distinct privilege and honor of becoming father for the first time when my son was born. And he will be 5 years old tomorrow, and that's very, very hard to believe. As I continued with my education, I brought myself into my job and what would be my career path. And I started out in the chemical sort of career path. I started out as a research scientist, research associate in a cancer laboratory, cancer research. But over time, I decided that this was not for me. And I took another job as a radiation safety specialist with West Virginia University. After that, I kind of decided that I was at a crossroads. I had graduated, I had this job as a radiation safety specialist, but I didn't really know whether I wanted to be that or not. So I went back to being a chemist again. And I worked as a chemist for Mylan Pharmaceuticals, which is a generic pharmaceutical company in West Virginia. And as I worked there, I realized I really didn't want to spend the rest of my life behind a desk testing drugs. So I finally realized that safety was where I needed to be. So in 2007, I packed up everything I had and I came down here to Virginia to become first an associate safety specialist and then a safety specialist working at Dominion at Yorktown Fire Station with Mr. Dalziel there, who does so very well in his speeches. At least the ones I've seen. All these experiences have brought me to where I am, and they've helped me to shape who I want to become. I've got a long way to go, but these experiences have helped me to get to where I am today. Tonight I've given you a glimpse into my life, and hopefully I've given you all a good idea of who I am. Thank you very much.